Hello, it's Mrs Glasson, and today I'm feeling belligerent and bellicose and like a brazen braggart. I don't care who knows it. But why, I hear you say, students? Why, Mrs Glasson? Because at the beginning of the last tutorial, you were feeling alacritous. So why today do you feel belligerent and bellicose? And why do you feel antagonistic and pugnacious and truculent and confrontational and querulous? Well, I'll tell you why, students. It's because today we are looking at wonderful words beginning with B. And students, here are two wonderful words beginning with B that I've used already. Belligerent and bellicose, meaning aggressive and argumentative. And just like that, some fantastic synonyms. Antagonistic, pugnacious, truculent, confrontational and querulous. Said I was going to be a brazen braggart, shameless, boastful person. Now, braggart and brazen, that reminds me of free lesson 2. And if you haven't taken it, you really do need to take it because it's free. Do you know what I mean, students? My foundation course and my 11 plus revision course students will know, and my live online students will know as well. The hair. Remember when I was teaching you polysemy? Remember that key term, which is essential to comprehension and creative writing. Because unless you know about polysemy, how can you make those amazing inferences? And then how can you craft those amazing pieces of writing that are polysemic, like all of the wonderful pieces of writing I have behind me? Now, coming back to these wonderful words beginning with B and to the idea of inferences in comprehension and to the idea of crafting fantastic creative writing, I just wanted to show you something. Belligerent, bellicose. Anybody that's used to analysing literature well will know about bilabial plosives. What do I mean? Well, that b sound. When you're making inferences, you can perhaps think about some of the contexts in which these words are found. Bilabial plosives, the b sound, phonetically, it's quite aggressive and it's quite harsh. So if you imagine you are listening to somebody who's using these words, belligerent and bellicose, phonetically also the words are given connotations of being violent and antagonistic. And that could be relevant when you are crafting certain characters, or perhaps when you are making inferences about certain characters. Go on that magic thing called the internet, which you know I love so much. You can find out all about different forms of sounds and phonetics and some of the connotations that they have, because perhaps not now 11 plus students, but certainly as you go higher up in school and you start analysing literature, so 11 plus inferences later on become assessment objective 2, analysis of language, form and structure, phonetics will play a key part. Make sure you're aware of that, but just for now, let's just have a look again. Some of you might be familiar with phonics, so that method of reading instruction. I'm a bit behind with how children are taught to read these days, but certainly when my children were at school, and I'm talking about nearly 20 years ago, jolly phonics was the thing. So we've got phonics and we've got phonetics as well. So when I was talking about bilabial plosives, you can find out about speech sounds by looking on the internet, but certainly as students of English, when we are making inferences, phonetics does come into play, and also this whole idea of the different kinds of sounds and the inferences that we can make based on those sounds. But just for now though, let me just show you what I mean. So I've told you about the voiceless bilabial plosive, the b, and then we've also got p, which is a voiced bilabial plosive. And I think both of them are connotative of antagonism and violence if you put them in the right context. So, for example, if I say to you, you're a pathetic, puny pilchard. Well, pilchard, I kind of, that doesn't really sound as frightening, does it? But just the p sound, the bilabial plosive, it does connote violence and antagonism. So it kind of amplifies my antagonism in using those words. So it comes back to this idea of polysemy as well, which is, I think, much better described in Free Lesson 2. School, you'll know all about bilabial plosives, voiced and voiceless, and phonics, but also phonetics, because we can make a lot of inferences based on sounds. And don't forget, skilled writers choose their words really carefully, because excellent writing, whether you're writing in year 4 or year 10 or year 13, or whether you're William Shakespeare or Charles Dickens, you choose your words carefully, and that also goes for the sounds. So, having been inundated with all of these quite negative words, let's think of some more pleasant words beginning with B. Now, immediately butterfly flutters into my mind, but that's not a particularly ambitious word, is it? I think I can do better than that. Rather than thinking about negative, malevolent things, let's think about some positive, good, benevolent things. Students, benevolent, meaning good, kind, generous, and that's an adjective. So here we have the abstract noun. If you are benevolent, you are full of benevolence, so goodness, kindness, generosity. And that reminds me, knowing so many ambitious words beginning with B will certainly be to your benefit or advantage. Antonyms. So the antonym of benevolent, there, malevolent. And the antonym of benevolence, the abstract noun, malevolence. And again, what do you notice? Yes, the antonym to the previous prefix, Benny, malevolent, malevolence. And of course, this reminds me of some wonderful acronymically named characters in Shakespeare's plays. Acronyms. So if you've done the foundation course and if you've taken the 11 plus revision course, you'll know all about them. Our skills of inference by focusing on Pip, that name that was given to Dickens's protagonist in Great Expectations. And my students, my live online students and my foundation course and revision course students, you'll be very, very well conversant with Dickens and also with how to unpack meaning. And so we have the acronymically named Malvolio. Shakespeare hated Puritans, and so he gave him this name, Malvolio. And in Romeo and Juliet, of course, Benvolio was the peacemaker. He was the good one, as signified by his name, Benvolio. The perfect foil, of course, to the mercurial Mercutio. I say to my English students, the more that you know, the better equipped you are to make inferences. And as I always say, happy Proactive learners are successful learners. So be like me. I'm always Googling things on the internet, finding out about prefixes and phonics and phonetics, and I find that really interesting. So I'll never stop being an excellent English student, and perhaps I can model for you how to be an excellent English student as well. But generally speaking, how to be an excellent student all round, be curious, look things up, be proactive. Bugbears. I tell you all about them in lesson 7. So a bugbear meaning cause of annoyance or irritation. But it's not all about me, honest. It's actually very, very serious. So these bugbears that have a lot to do with spelling, punctuation and grammar. These mistakes, 11 plus students, which you must never, never make in your creative writing. And I go through quite a few of them. And remember, spelling, punctuation and grammar is rewarded by English teachers like me throughout your education. And certainly when it comes to the 11 plus. So make sure you do as I say in lesson 7, and you never make those silly mistakes which bring down the quality and the marks for your creative writing. And you never cause me to be annoyed or irritated. And so we have it. As you would expect, being an English teacher, my bugbears are to do with accuracy and lucidity, spelling, punctuation and grammar. Bugbears, which are the bane of my life, source of frustration and woe, and they really badger me. Gosh, we're getting quite negative again with those bilabial plosives. Bugbear, bane of my life. Let's now go back to a much more positive tone. In one of my videos, so it's the one on mock test 2, I begin by saying that I feel particularly buoyant after reading the wonderful reviews. You can see why if you go to www.mrsglasson.com, because I do have some lovely reviews and they do make me feel particularly buoyant. But what does that mean? And more importantly, how do you spell it? Because it's quite a tricky word to spell. Look, I always find this really interesting, and in mock test 2, in the accompanying English lesson, I do show you how to look up grammatical terms in the same way by looking at the different images that you can get. So this is quite interesting. It gives you a pictorial account of what boys are, but also of buoyant as well. So you can see float and sink. That's actually quite interesting. And it gives you a different way in to learning the meaning of the word. So buoyant, there you are. There is somebody floating there. So literally, that person is buoyant, which brings me to the other meaning. English, we're coming back to polysemy. So that really important lesson, which is actually part of free lesson 2. And this relationship in English between the literal and the metaphorical. So buoyant meaning afloat or floating, as in that diagram with somebody buoyant in the water. When I swim, I hope that I am buoyant in the water. But also metaphorically, cheerful and optimistic. So when I read my lovely reviews for my mock tests and my courses and my free lessons actually, I feel particularly buoyant. There we are, having started in such a negative way with feeling bellicose and belligerent, we have ended in a very positive, upbeat way by feeling buoyant. Oh, students, without teaching you my favourite word beginning with B, bibliophile, a person who collects and loves books. In my Twitter profile, so Mrs Glasson's Online English Tuition on Twitter, I describe myself as a bibliophile, and so I am. that bilabial plosives aren't always negative. They can be positive too. Bravo for bilabial plosives. Bibliophile. B, because I'm excited and I love being a bibliophile because I love books. You have learnt lots of words that will be useful to you here. And you have learnt, don't be a brazen bellicose braggart. Instead, be a benevolent, buoyant bibliophile. I've thoroughly enjoyed teaching you today, and next time I'm going to teach you some fantastic words beginning with C. So please join me if you want to elevate your lexis, make your diction more dexterous, and make your English exemplary.